Hey, what's up, Risers? If you've ever wondered how to use the NFL Study Hub, I wanted to show you how I personally use it every single week that I play NFL DFS. On the website, once you go to teamriseorfall.com, under the NFL tab is the NFL Study Hub. There are all these tabs down here. If you ever want to backtrack and see how you would have done in previous weeks using FC Rewind, because you have applied our $20 credit that all of our members get, and you're trying out FC Rewind, you can go back and use last week's results. There's the All Positions tab, which I think is very good to use as like a brief overview if you want to see how they're doing fantasy points wise, things like that. The first tab that I personally go to every time I use the NFL Study Hub for any week is the Game Flow tab. It's a very nice overview where I can see what each team is going to look like as far as their team run pass distribution and their opponents and how they give up. So what I'll do is I'll click on the 1 p.m. and drag across to the 425. What that does is it filters the entire main slate. For the main slate now, I know exactly who's playing, and I know that these games must be Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, and Monday Night Football. I don't have to worry about them. It takes them out of the Study Hub, and I can focus on just the things I want. I'm going to increase the screen size to 100% so you can see this a little bit bigger for the tutorial itself. All right, so now I'm going to not look at any of this stuff. I'll come back to projections, ownership projections, the value scores, DVP, things like that later. The first thing I want to do is look specifically, and I love how these are locked here so I can scroll the screen across. First thing I'm going to look at here is the Vegas implied total. So I'm going to sort this one, and I can see, okay, Packers-Colts 51.5 point total might be an interesting game to target. 51 point total for Saints and Falcons. By the way, I know this one opened a little bit different Vegas line, and of course with Jameis Winston as the starting quarterback, this line is moving to the Falcons' favor. Ravens opened at a 49 point total with the Panthers, Detroit, and Detroit and Tennessee at a 49 point total, Cleveland and Philly 48 point total, and so on and so forth. So from there, I will then sort by the team implied totals, and I can see, oh wow, the Steelers are 10 point favorites at Jacksonville. So you can scroll over this way with your eyes and you can see at Jacksonville, they are 10 point favorites with a 28.75 implied team total. And this is how I can kind of make a cutoff. All right, looks like, Detroit down to Jacksonville. Terrible implied team totals. Maybe the top half are the teams that I'm going to be targeting. So it's just a general brief overview, and it kind of puts me in the general direction I want to go. From there, I look at anything here to see if there's any matchups where I can find, oh, okay, is there a team that's potentially going to be in a pace-up type atmosphere? Well, here's one. The Chargers are running 71.3 plays per game. Their opponent this week is the New York Jets. The New York Jets are at a 59.2 plays per game pace. That's a massive difference of 12 plays. Generally, when you are projecting the amount of plays an offense will get versus another team, is you'll meet them somewhere in the middle, because if the Jets are really slow and the Chargers play really fast, you're likely going to get a few less plays from the Chargers that week unless their offense goes absolutely nuclear, which it could against the Jets. And the Jets are likely going to get a few more plays because they're playing in such a fast atmosphere. Here's another one. The Cowboys play with a play per game pace of 73.4 plays per game. Well, guess what, my friends? Minnesota, they're a pretty slow offense at 58.9. Now we can look at this and say, holy moly, we have the Vikings at a 27.25 point implied team total. They're favorites of 8 points at home against Dallas, who is running at a very fast-paced offense, even with a plethora of backups who are not Dak Prescott. Okay, well, that's interesting to me now, because the Vikings are now one of the teams I want to focus on, depending on what their price tags are in Week 11, because I know that they're going to be running at a very fast pace. If we meet in the middle somewhere, we might get 7 to 10 more plays on the Vikings offensive side this week. That's more runs, that's more passes. More passes means more opportunity for Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. If I want to dive into how much more opportunity, let's say I project another 6 to 8 passes for the offense. Here's how I can do this. I'm going to slide over the wide receiver tab. I'm going to sort the main slate again, and I can simply just click on Minnesota now. And then when I go to Minnesota, I'm going to slide over and look at their market shares. Wow, okay, so if I'm projecting, let's say, another 8 passes for Minnesota, not bad. Pretty easy to do so if I think they're going to run, 8 to 10 more plays. Let's say they do another 6 to 8 passes. They're general rough estimates. And I know that Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen both average 25% or so market share. I can now project them to have another couple targets this week. Interesting. At least the potential for another couple targets. Knowing that Justin Jefferson has been averaging 6 targets per game, now I can say he potentially is going to have 8 targets this week. Adam Thielen's getting around 5. Now I can project him for around 7 targets this week. I'm just projecting probabilities. No way, shape, or form are these guys are certainly 100% going to get this projected stats or this amount of opportunity. I'm just projecting probabilities. That is how I use the game flow tab. I'll start to look at things like that. I'll go look at the specific team and see what type of upside they might have. I will also sort by rushing game and passing game yards allowed so that I can see are any teams specifically in a great spot. And I can see this one right now. New England Patriots at Houston. Houston is giving up, this is how you read this, Houston is giving up 167.4 rushing yards per game this season. I can see that Dallas is giving up 157 rushing yards per game this season, and I can see that Detroit is giving up 141 rushing yards per game this year. I can see how many points these teams are giving up. All right, so again, we've got Dalvin Cook against the Cowboys giving up 32 points per game and 157 rushing yards. And if I go over to the running back tab, yeah, that's going to be why Dalvin Cook, his price tag is astronomical. It's $9K on DK, it's $10.5K on Fanduel, but it makes sense. The matchup is pristine. 157 rushing yards per game for Dalvin Cook. That's the matchup. And 32 points per game Dallas is allowing. When I slide over to New England, I want to see who stands to benefit here. They have a bevy of running backs here. James White, Damian Harris, Rex Burkhead. All right, so let me scroll over, and they are facing a defense giving up 167 rushing yards. Do any of these guys have an opportunity to splash? All right, well, let's take a peek at the snaps. We can see Damian Harris has been getting the volume as of late. 11 touches, 16 touches, 14 touches, 22 touches. Not bad. Okay. We know he's slightly game flow dependent as he has not racked up any targets. He's really just, if it's a running down, he's in the ball game. He's had a snap rate of 40%, 31%, 35%, and 55%. We know this week against the Houston Texans, a team that gives up a lot of rushing yards, that Damian Harris likely is a fine option for touchdown equity type plays. And here we go on Fanduel, 5.8K. That is very, very nice price tag for a guy who's probably going to get anywhere between 15 to 20 touches. They're likely all going to be carries, and he's going against a defense that can't stop a nosebleed. And I think this means you have potential to use Damian Harris specifically on Fanduel, where you're focused on touchdowns, you're focused on yardage. On DraftKings, 5.7K, maybe not. That might not be the best play, because pass catching opportunities are very low. Here's another one that interests me a little bit this week, and this one shocks me a little bit too. It's Denver giving up 128.8 yards per game. What I like about this is the Dolphins at 24.25 implied points this week. That is their highest on the season. So how I would look at this and look into that, I would see, okay, Denver, interesting. They give up 129 yards rushing per game. Who's the running back for the Dolphins? All right, I'm going to slide over to Miami. I'm going to click Miami Dolphins team filter right now, and I see, okay, wow, all these guys are injured. Laird injured, Matthew Breda injured, Jordan Howard is gone, Myles Gaskins is gone. Actually, Laird had 17% of the snaps. But we see Selvin Ahmed got his first start and had 76% of the snaps in Week 10. On top of that, he had 22 total touches. He had 21 carries for 85 yards off the top of my head, and I think a 5 or 6 yard rushing touchdown. He also had one pass target, caught it for 5 yards. So ended up with 22 touches for 85 yards, 16 points on DK, 15.5 on Fanduel. Listen, this means I have an interesting spot where not only does Miami have a decent matchup against Denver, I know they have a solid implied team total, slightly outside the top 8 this week, but I look at these price tags and I see a guy who's going to get 20 touches at 4.8K on DK and 5.6K on FanDuel. And there we go. Now I know that's another target I want to use. So on and so forth. I'll do this for the rest of the running backs. I'll do this again for the passing yards, and I'll see, all right, wow, here's one. What defenses suck against the pass, and how does that look for the opposing quarterback? I can see that Jameis Winston has the best matchup according to yards allowed on the entire slate. Atlanta's giving up 310 yards passing per game. Comes out to 26.4 yards passing allowed, more than any other quarterback on the entire slate. So Jameis Winston, what's your price tag? I'm going to slide over to quarterback slate, filter this, and I can sort by DK salaries, and I can see that, oh my goodness, Jameis Winston is 5, 10, 12th. He's the 12th highest priced quarterback with the number 1 matchup on the entire slate. DVP is ideal once you've identified some of this stuff, right? So Jameis Winston at 5.9K, the 12th highest priced with the best matchup. And if I want to take it one step further, click on the defensive tab and you can sort by quarterback. This shows how many points the Atlanta Falcons are giving up to opposing quarterbacks. So again, let's sort by the main slate. Look at the Atlanta Falcons defense. They're giving up 26 points per game to opposing quarterbacks. Ugh, that's brutal. I can see Jacksonville giving up the second most. Guess what? Jacksonville plays Big Ben, who we've talked about already, and, well, we're about to talk about. And Justin Herbert has the third best matchup against the Jets, who are giving up 20.94 points per game. And if you want to take that one step further, you can see not only is Atlanta giving up the most points to quarterbacks, but they are also giving up the most points to tight ends, which puts in Jared Cook into play, right? So you can see this and say, oh my gosh, Falcons defense giving up the most yards to quarterbacks, most points to quarterbacks, and most points to tight ends. So now, interestingly enough, you are putting in potential stacks to Jameis Winston, Michael Thomas, with Jared Cook, 3-player game stacks, team stacks, and then run it back with someone on the Falcons side. You know, whether that's going to be Hayden Hurst, whether that's going to be potential, well, I don't know if you want Hayden Hurst flex tight end. You can run it back with Calvin Ridley if he's healthy, Justin Gage if not. You can certainly plug in Julio Jones and just not think twice about it. So I use these tabs all in conjunction with each other. I start here on the game flow tab to identify whatever I can through Vegas, the team run pass distribution, the opponent points and yards allowed. I will then go to the defensive tab, see what types of points they give up, and I'll go individually tab by tab, look at the snap rate. I want to see their snap rates and their target opportunities. For instance, if I was trying to decipher who do I want to use at wide receiver on a certain team, one thing that you can do is simply, let me take off this filter. One thing that you can do is look at a team like Cincinnati and see, well, okay, they've got a bevy of options, but who stands out? Well, let's take a peek. You can go over to this. You can sort by their target averages or market share, more probably a better choice. And I can see, all right, Tyler Boyd, 9.3 targets per game. T. Higgins, 7.7. AJ Green, 7.7. And then I can look at their snap rates. Wow, they're all fairly similar. AJ Green, 87, 85, and 83%. He has not looked good. 15.2 DK points in week 7, 3.9 in week 8, and 0 last week. But I tell you what, my friends, he's just 3.6K on DraftKings this week. That's an interesting spot, and that puts him on my radar. And maybe I plug him in with someone like T. Higgins, who's been scoring very well, right? We look at the DK points per game, 19.9. Tyler Boyd, 20.1. Okay, so maybe it's not plug both of these guys in and eat chalk. You know, maybe you go T. Higgins and AJ Green, and you plug in, let's take this off. Let's do Cincinnati and Washington together. And maybe I'm going to look for a game stack. All right, so I roll out T. Higgins, AJ Green against Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas, or Terry McLaurin and J.D. McKissick. All of a sudden, you've got a 5-player game stack centered around Alex Smith as your quarterback or Joe Burrow as your quarterback. And I will use these to identify whom I want to land on for my stacks. These filters are everything for me, and sorting stuff like this matters a lot to me. I want to use this data to identify targets. I don't want to use it specifically to finalize my decisions. It's kind of just like leading me down certain paths. All right, my friends, again, down below in the description section, you've got multiple links that are for free. You've got the subscribe link, $29.99, leads you to the subscribe page, and hopefully you end up signing up with us and applying your $20 monthly credit, and I can catch you in Discord. Together, we rise.